"You don't belong here. Get out before I call security." Those were the very first words shouted across the showroom by the dealership manager, Mark, to a well-dressed black man who had just stepped inside. It was a sunny Monday morning. The dealership had just opened, and Mark was pacing the floor with his usual grumpy attitude. He prided himself on spotting trouble from a mile away. So when he saw a man walking in alone, wearing a hoodie and jeans, but holding an expensive-looking briefcase, Mark made an instant judgment. He stormed over, not to greet, but to confront. "No loitering. We don't have time for window shoppers," he snapped. "We don't do test drives just for fun." The man calmly replied, "Actually, I have an appointment." Mark rolled his eyes. "With who?" "Because no one told me about it. Get out now." But what Mark didn't know was this. He had just disrespected the man who now owned the entire dealership. The man being told to get out of the dealership wasn't just another customer. He was Jordan Williams, a 38-year-old self-made millionaire with a story that defied all expectations and a mission that was bigger than just selling cars. Jordan's journey began in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Atlanta. Raised by a single mother, Tanya Williams, he grew up in a modest apartment surrounded by struggle. His mother juggled multiple jobs, cleaning offices by night and working as a school secretary by day, just to put food on the table. Jordan didn't have much, but he had something more valuable than money: grit. At just 13 years old, he was working after school. First it was delivering newspapers, then washing cars on weekends. By high school, he was balancing homework with shifts at a fast food restaurant. He never complained. He couldn't afford to. He had younger siblings looking up to him, and a mother who had sacrificed everything. Even as a teenager, Jordan had an entrepreneur's mindset. He'd buy candy in bulk from discount stores and sell it to classmates for a small profit. He once repaired an old bike using YouTube tutorials, then flipped it for 3 times what he paid. That spirit only grew stronger with time. After high school, Jordan earned a scholarship to study business and technology at a state university. There, while struggling to rent a car to attend a cousin's wedding out of town, he was hit with high prices, ridiculous deposits, and shady customer service. That frustrating experience planted a seed. "There's got to be a better way to do this," he thought. And just like that, the idea for a revolutionary car-sharing app was born. Jordan spent nights coding, skipping parties, and sleep to bring his vision to life. After months of grinding, he launched Autoloop, an app that connected people who needed cars with locals willing to rent out their vehicles safely and affordably. The concept took off, first in Atlanta, then in surrounding cities. Within 3 years, Jordan had grown Autoloop into a multi-million-dollar business, landing features in major tech magazines and attracting investors nationwide. But success didn't change Jordan. It refined his purpose. Despite his financial success, Jordan never forgot what it felt like to be judged when walking into a dealership, especially as a young black man. He recalled moments from his 20s, when he tried to buy his first used car and salesmen ignored him or assumed he couldn't afford anything decent. It wasn't just inconvenient, it was humiliating. Years later, as a wealthy businessman, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Jordan quietly began acquiring car dealerships, not to flip them for profit, but to transform the culture inside. His goal was simple: to create dealerships where everyone, no matter their skin color, background, or budget, would be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. He purchased 3 dealerships across the state, each in different communities. He made changes, retraining staff, improving customer service, adding transparent pricing, and emphasizing inclusion. And now, he was ready to visit his 3rd and most recent acquisition. The dealership where Jordan was now being kicked out had been in his name for just 1 week. But instead of arriving in a suit or announcing himself as the owner, he chose to go undercover, dressed casually in jeans and a hoodie, blending in with everyday customers. He wanted to see how people like him were treated, especially those who didn't walk in flashing wealth. He had no camera crew, no assistants, no CEO speech prepared, just him, his briefcase, and a quiet mission. But what he discovered within minutes of stepping onto the showroom floor shocked even him. The manager didn't just ignore him. He confronted him, accused him of loitering, and told him to leave. Loudly. Publicly. Jordan stood silently, stunned but composed. He had seen bad customer service before, but this wasn't just bad. It was blatant disrespect. And as painful as it was, he realized something powerful. This moment, this humiliation, would reveal exactly why he got into this business. Little did the manager know, he had just insulted the new owner of the entire dealership. And everything was about to change. Back inside the dealership, Mark was still visibly irritated. His voice was raised just enough for nearby customers and employees to hear. "This is a professional business," he barked, practically spitting the words out. "We don't need people like you wasting our time." Jordan stood quietly, unfazed, but firm. He looked Mark straight in the eyes. "Is this how you treat all walk-in customers?" Mark let out a dry laugh and crossed his arms. "No," he said with a smirk. "Just the ones who clearly aren't buying anything. You came in here with nothing but questions, no appointment, no interest in buying, wasting time. And by the way," he added with a sneer, "if you're here to apply for a job, don't bother. We're not hiring." A few feet away, a young woman had been standing near the service desk. Her name was Samantha, a new hire, fresh out of college, working as a receptionist and learning the ropes. She wasn't supposed to be in sales conversations, but she had heard the argument unfolding from the moment it started. Something about the man's calm tone and steady presence struck her as unusual. She glanced at the man's face again. It clicked. Her heart skipped a beat. Digging quickly into her memory, she recalled the internal staff memo they'd all received last week. It had announced the arrival of a new owner, someone who had recently purchased the dealership along with 2 others in the state. It had included his name and a headshot, brief, professional, and easy to miss. But Samantha hadn't missed it. She stepped forward carefully, eyes wide with realization. "Wait," she said softly, almost whispering. "Excuse me, is your name Jordan Williams?" Jordan turned to look at her. His expression was neutral, but his eyes met hers with a quiet intensity. He gave a single, slow nod. Mark turned toward her sharply, confusion and frustration on his face. "What? You know this guy?" Samantha looked directly at Mark. Her voice trembled slightly, but she stood her ground. "He's not just a customer. That's Jordan Williams. He's the new owner. He bought this dealership last week." The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Mark's jaw dropped. His smug posture collapsed instantly, replaced by stunned silence. His face turned pale, the blood draining from his cheeks as he blinked in disbelief. "What?" he said, barely audible. "No, that can't be right." Samantha nodded again, this time more confidently. "It's him. I remember the photo from the company email. That's definitely him." Jordan said nothing at first. He didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice. He simply looked at Mark and waited. Mark, now visibly panicking, scrambled for words. "Mr. Williams, I didn't know. I didn't realize." Jordan cut him off calmly. "You didn't need to realize anything. You just had to treat people with respect. That's all." There was a long silence. Everyone in the room had stopped. A few other employees looked on from across the showroom, wide-eyed. Even customers had turned their heads, sensing something major had just happened. Mark tried again. "Sir, please, let me explain." But Jordan raised a hand, silencing him. "Save it. I didn't come here for special treatment. I came to see how customers are treated when no one's watching. And now I know." His voice was calm, but his message was powerful. Samantha looked on, stunned by the unfolding moment. Jordan gave her a slight nod of thanks. Then, turning back to Mark, Jordan added quietly, "I suggest you step into my office. We have a conversation to finish." Mark swallowed hard. His arrogant mask had fully melted away. Now, he was just another man, facing the consequences of his actions. The lesson: never judge a book by its cover. And never forget, respect costs nothing, but the lack of it can cost you everything. Jordan quietly reached down and opened his briefcase. Every eye in the room was on him. From the outside, he looked calm and composed, but there was a weight behind every move, the kind that comes from years of fighting to be seen and respected. He pulled out a folder, opened it, and slowly placed the documents on the showroom counter. Inside were the official ownership papers, signed, stamped, and undeniable. Jordan's name was printed clearly on the title as the new owner of the dealership. For a few moments, there was complete silence. No one moved. "I wasn't here to cause trouble," Jordan said, his voice steady but carrying authority. "I came to get a real look at how customers are treated before making any changes. No big announcement, no press, just an honest visit." He let the words sink in before continuing. "But I think I've already seen enough." Mark, who just minutes ago was barking orders and judging Jordan by his clothes, now stood frozen. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Finally, he stammered, "I didn't know, sir. I thought, Jordan raised a hand, calmly interrupting. "You thought I was just some guy who didn't belong here. Just another face you could dismiss." Mark's lips moved again, but he couldn't find anything to say. "You looked at me, judged me by my appearance, and decided I wasn't worth your time," Jordan added. "You made that decision in seconds." Across the room, the staff and a few early customers stood motionless, watching it all unfold like a scene out of a movie. Some employees looked embarrassed. Others, like Samantha, looked proud that the truth was being revealed. Jordan took a breath, then turned to face the team gathered behind the front desk and around the showroom. "I know what it feels like to walk into places and be treated like you don't belong. I've lived that, and that ends today." His voice was clear now, stronger, louder. "From this moment forward, this dealership will be a place where every customer is treated with respect, fairness, and dignity. I don't care if they walk in wearing a suit or sandals. We treat everyone the same." The staff nodded, some visibly moved. A few even clapped softly. Then Jordan turned back to Mark, who looked as if he wanted to disappear into the floor. "And as for you," Jordan said, his voice now calm but cutting, "we won't be needing your services anymore." Mark's head jerked up. "Sir, please. I've been here for 8 years. I didn't mean—" "I'm sure you didn't," Jordan said firmly. "But that's exactly the problem. People in positions of leadership have to do better, not just when they know someone's important, but every single day, with every single customer." Mark's shoulders slumped. There was nothing left to argue. Jordan looked toward Samantha, who had spoken up earlier. "Thank you for your integrity. That matters here." She smiled softly and nodded, still slightly in shock. Jordan closed the folder, slid it back into his briefcase, and turned to address the room one last time. "This place is going to be different now," he said, "and I'm going to make sure of it." With that, Jordan walked past the stunned employees, leaving behind a silence that said more than any speech could. The lesson was clear. Never underestimate anyone based on how they look, because the person you judge today might just be the boss tomorrow. Mark was let go that very same day. No formal warning, no second chance. The message was clear. If you treat people unfairly, there's no place for you here. And just like that, the man who thought he owned the floor was walked out of the building by security, while the staff and a few stunned customers looked on. But Jordan didn't stop there. The very next morning, he called a mandatory meeting with the entire team, from salespeople to technicians to receptionists. Everyone gathered in the main showroom, still buzzing with rumors about what had happened the day before. Some looked nervous, others curious. A few were hopeful. Jordan stood in front of them, no fancy speech, no suits or ego. Just a man with a story, a mission, and a promise. "I didn't buy this place to sell more cars," he began. "I bought it to make a difference. I've been in your shoes, working hard, trying to prove myself, and sometimes being ignored or disrespected for things I couldn't control." He paused, letting the silence carry the weight of his words. "This dealership will be different. From today forward, we treat every person who walks through those doors, no matter how they look, talk, or dress, with the same respect we'd want for ourselves." Then he did something most owners wouldn't dare. He asked the staff to speak openly. "Tell me what hasn't been working here," he said. "What needs to change?" And for the first time in a long while, voices were heard. Employees spoke up about past favoritism, outdated training, and customers who had been mistreated or ignored. Some admitted they had felt powerless to speak up until now. Jordan listened. He took notes, and he took action. He introduced a full staff retraining program, not just on how to sell cars, but how to build trust, communicate with empathy, and serve everyone fairly. He installed hidden cameras throughout the dealership, not to spy, but to monitor how customers were really being treated, and to reward those employees who went above and beyond. New policies rolled out over the next few weeks. Zero tolerance for discrimination, clear guidelines for customer service, a bonus system that rewarded kindness just as much as performance, and a suggestion box, anonymous, open to all, that Jordan personally reviewed every week. Then something amazing happened. Word spread fast. Someone who had been there that day posted about the experience on social media, and it went viral. People started showing up not just to buy cars, but to meet the man behind the transformation. Customers came in from other cities, some just to shake Jordan's hand. Journalists picked up the story. Local news stations did features on the dealership with a difference. And through it all, Jordan stayed grounded. He shook hands with every customer. He personally trained new hires. He never once acted like he was above anyone else. In just the first month under his leadership, the dealership's sales didn't just improve, they doubled. But more important than the numbers was the shift in energy. People walked in and felt welcomed, respected, seen. Employees smiled more. Customers returned. Community leaders praised the culture shift. And as for Mark, the former manager who once judged Jordan by his appearance, he became a quiet lesson in the background of every staff meeting, not to mock or shame him, but to remind everyone of a simple truth. Never underestimate someone because of how they look, because the person you dismiss today might just be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow. And in Jordan's case, that very person turned judgment into justice and a business into a movement. This powerful story isn't just about a car dealership. It's about assumptions, respect, and the power of staying calm when wronged. Let this be a reminder. Never judge a book by its cover, because behind every person, there's a story, and sometimes that story includes owning the whole building.